All right, I am Mr. Ferguson, and this is the Body Tissues interview. So here on the top column, we have epithelial tissue. And the general function for epithelial tissue, you're looking at diffusion and protection. This specifically is squamous epithelial tissue, and this is for diffusion. You'll see this on the inside lining of lungs. This is cuboidal epithelial tissue. This is generally for protection. This is at the base of epithelial layers where there's lots of epithelial cells building on top of each other. You usually see the cuboidal shape in protection again. This is columnar epithelial tissue. You see this also throughout the body. This is also protection. Specifically, you can see this on the covering of the eye itself. That is columnar. This down here is connective tissue. We got loose connective tissue, you got blood, and then we have bone. Loose connective tissue it's holding organisms in place. And this is the general definition for connective tissue. You're looking at it holds all structures kind of together within the body, and it always, under the microscope, it's always sitting beneath the epithelial layer. So the epithelial tissue is always on the surface, and it surrounds all organs and all structures, including the whole human body itself. It's the top layer of skin. But always right beneath epithelial tissue is connective tissue. And in this case, you see loose connective tissue. These strands right here are protein fibers, and it just gives structure and support. And these protein fibers, of course, were made by certain cells within that matrix itself. This is blood. These are red blood cells. They carry oxygen and carbon dioxide. This is a white blood cell, and it's used for immune purposes, for defense. This is bone, and bone, of course, is for structure, bone also being a connective tissue. Over here, we have muscle. And muscle is for generally propulsion of substances or movement itself. So smooth muscle is used for propulsion of substances. So it lines hollow organs. You can see it's got one nuclei per cell. This is skeletal muscle. You can see each skeletal muscle cell has multiple nuclei. This is for the movement of the organism. This is cardiac muscle. It's got multiple nuclei per cell. You can also see that this, even though it's got these bands, the dark and light bands, just like skeletal muscle, the overall cells themselves are branched and they're interconnected. So these cells are interconnected, and this is kind of a protective measure too, because this is cardiac muscle, this is heart muscle. This, just in case if there's any part of the heart muscle that ends up dying, the adjacent cells next to it can kind of help take over to minimize the damage. This is nervous tissue, and this is a motor neuron specifically. And nervous tissue is just used for sending information from, rapidly by electrical impulses through the body. And the direction that this is done is through, you go dendrites, cell body, and then down the axon and out the axon terminals. I haven't finished coloring mine, but that's the general direction, and it's the only direction of information flow through the nervous system, or through the neuron specifically, as this is. Like I said, it's a motor neuron. Do know that skeletal muscle and nervous tissue do not regenerate. So when you're looking at cancers don't generally come from these two tissues, because these cells are not generating new cells throughout your lifetime. So if somebody gets a brain tumor, remember, the brain is an organ. So as an organ, it's got all four of these tissues. And people tend to think it's a neuron that's gone cancerous. And a cancer is just a cell that's growing out of control. That's all a tumor is, which then once it spreads throughout the body, then you can call it cancerous. But epithelial tissue and connective tissue are highly regenerative throughout your lifetime. So you're always building new epithelial cells and connective tissue cells. And these are the ones that are likely to go cancerous. So if somebody gets a brain tumor, it's likely to be the epithelial cells that cover the brain or the connective tissue that's directly under the epithelial tissue within the brain. Those are the ones that are likely to go cancerous. A feedback mechanism such as, your heart rate, if somebody starts running, your heart rate goes up, your body temperature goes up, your body then goes through a mechanism of allowing you to sweat to cool off the skin. This is a negative feedback mechanism designed to keep the body under homeostasis, to keep everything under normal conditions, which we call homeostasis. That's just your body's ability to keep everything under normal conditions. A pathology is a disease, and all that is a disruption of homeostasis. So whether it's infectious or non-infectious, it's something that's causing the body's homeostasis to alter or to not be effective. And then we call that a disease. And that's it. Thanks. Bye.